Hey, what's going on? It is yours truly, Timothyjjones. Thank you for stopping by the State of the NFL podcast. I ask that you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. This is a channel where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all of the NFL. Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is yours truly, Timothyjjones, and welcome to another edition of the State of the NFL podcast, where we talk about some of the hottest topics in all of the National Football League. And on this edition, we have a special guest with us here on the State of the NFL, someone that I've talked to on several occasions. If you checked out my other podcast entitled The State of the Saints, good friend to the show, good friend, in general, always willing to talk to us about the NFL. He is the NFL Network's chief national reporter. And I think he really needs no introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Steve Wyche. Steve, how you doing?
I'm great, man. Hey, I like the wrinkle. I like the twist on the name of the show, my man. Well done by you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And also just thank you for stopping by to talk to us a little bit about the NFL. And just throughout the years, just always offering some advice to me. So I really do appreciate it, sir.
Oh, no, man. Look, you're a rising star, my man. We don't get where we want to go without the help of others, right? I always tell people I wouldn't be here without Michael Wilbon or Brian Burwell or David Aldridge and guys like that. So anything I can do is just a cherry on top, bro, because you are on your way.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. And once again, I appreciate your time. Just to talk to us a little bit about the National Football League. The 2025 season is slowly approaching, and there's a lot of things going on. I want to talk to you first about what's happening in New York with the Jets. I mean, back to back breaking news. First, they paid Garrett Wilson, the wide receiver. They gave him a 4-year, $130 million deal there, and then they come back again and give Sauce Gardner a 4-year deal, making him the highest paid cornerback in all of football. Just talk to us a little bit about the Jets culture. This is uncharacteristic of them. They've been a team, they'll draft top players and then they'll allow those players to leave. But it seems like there's a little bit of a culture change now that Aaron Glenn and Joe Douglas are on board. Aaron Glenn as the head coach and Joe Douglas as the general manager.
Yeah, well, we'll see if it's a culture change, but the way they're handling business is the way well-organized and well-structured teams handle business, right? You draft, you develop, and you re-sign your own talent. It's the best thing to never let your best players hit the open market, which we see the Jets have done before, which seems like the Jaguars, the other teams have done. And you see that's kept up this recycling of hiring new general managers and new head coaches. And so, yeah, this is a step in the right direction. Like, why would you ever want to lose someone like a Sauce Gardner, right? And Garrett Wilson, the thing that's interesting about him is they got him done a year before they really had to, right? Yeah. The first year he was eligible after his third season. Yeah. So to go ahead and get that part done is kind of taking a page out of the Eagles book, because even though he's going to be averaging $32.5 million a year, that's going to seem like a bargain 3 years from now when he collects that $90 million guaranteed already, collects that generational wealth. That's going to seem like a bargain. So, again, they're doing business the way a lot of successful teams have done it over the years.
Yeah, I mean, I just look at the Jets. They're a very high-profile team, sometimes for all the wrong reasons. But it just seemed like this offseason, it's been relatively quiet.
Yep.
Aaron Rodgers, he leaves. He goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He signs a 1-year deal. They bring in Justin Fields, who came from the Steelers, gave him a 2-year deal. What are your thoughts on Justin Fields and how will he be able to fit in this Jets offense? I mean, it's a little different from, the offense, offensive coordinator of the Jets, Jared Goff. He was very instrumental in helping, when it comes to the Detroit Lions. Yeah, yep. He was instrumental helping him. How is this going to fit? Justin Fields has a completely different skill set from a Jared Goff.
Right, and you're talking about that because the Jets' new OC is coming from Detroit with Aaron Glenn. Yeah. But who did Aaron Glenn have to game plan for 6 times, right? When Aaron Glenn was the DC of the Lions, he was facing Justin Fields
Yeah,
6 times with the Bears. So he understands the strengths and weaknesses, what they had to game plan for, where he could hurt them and where they could take advantage of it. So he knows that from the defensive mindset. So now the offensive coordinator is probably like, okay, we're going to have to incorporate some RPO game. We're going to have to incorporate some option type of game, but also, some bootleg stuff, some run off the move. I mean, this is one thing. Remember, Garrett Wilson played with Justin Fields at Ohio State, right? So there are some things we've seen, when Justin Fields can make the right decisions, he's a very effective passer. But a lot of times he gets a lot of the garbage in his head and gets lost. And so they've got to simplify certain things, get him to his first or second read, or else take off and run.
Yeah.
Thing is, as the season goes along and you start facing your division opponents a second time, you've really got to be able to build on certain things. And that's where we're going to see. But you see the Jets, they went out, drafted a right tackle, right? Justin Fields, a right-handed quarterback, which is telling you a lot of their RPO-type run game could be built for the right side. But their offensive line is pretty good. They've got running backs. They've got receivers. Like, there's talent. On paper, the Jets are a very talented team. Now we just have to see if Aaron Glenn can change some of that culture. Because, again, when you go into these defeatist-type atmospheres or these things where the focus isn't solely on doing the little things it takes to win, then you get lost. Then, it snowballs. So if Aaron Glenn and his staff can go ahead and change that part of it, the Jets have the talent to make some noise.
Yeah. Yeah, and my final question to you about the Jets, and it pertains to Justin Fields once again. Is this his final stop? Like normally, like when you have these quarterbacks that get drafted pretty high, they go to a team and then they kind of bounce around the league, and they start to develop a reputation if they don't get the job done in one particular spot. Could you see that this being a final opportunity for Justin Fields to be just a definitive starter in the National Football League?
It really all depends. I mean, look at Sam Darnold. Look at Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker was with 3 different teams. Remember, he went to Cleveland, Carolina, and the Rams before he settled in with the Buccaneers and got in the right environment for him to thrive.
Yeah.
So, look, for Justin Fields, because he is a running quarterback, he's a little bit different in terms of the prototype. It could be. It could be, but we've seen other guys bounce around from team to team and take advantage of certain opportunities. So it's just really hard to say now, because we're in this era where more and more coaches are really designing and developing based on the quarterback talent more so than forcing the quarterback into the offensive coordinator scheme. So, to sit there and say it's going to be his last stop, I don't know. I wouldn't think so, but hopefully he succeeds, because everyone you hear talk about him will tell you he's a really good guy, works just as hard as any of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL. He just has to get in an environment for him to thrive.
Yeah, I like Justin Fields a lot. I just think that sometimes when players go to organizations that's trying to figure it out and struggling, sometimes those quarterbacks or those players can get a bad rep. And you mentioned, players like Baker Mayfield, players like Sam Darnold, Geno Smith. They've got second, lives with other teams when they go to a culture that actually knows how to utilize them. Hopefully, the Jets can actually follow suit and allow Justin Fields to really thrive. And, because like you said, he has the talent, he has the ability to be a really good quarterback in the NFL. No doubt about that. But speaking of Sam Darnold, let's transition. We'll go to the NFC West. You look around the NFC West, a lot of things are changing. And we'll start with the Seattle Seahawks. Sam Darnold, he leads Minnesota, has his best season ever. And he ends up getting paid by Seattle, who moves on from Geno Smith. But Seattle also moved on from DK Metcalf. He goes to Pittsburgh. Jackson Smith-Njigba is the number 1 guy. They bring in Cooper Kupp. What are your thoughts on the Seattle Seahawks, and their new offense and how this team looks right now? What do you think about them in 2025?
They're an interesting team, because I think there's a lot of talent for what they want to do. I think defensively they've got to get better. I think they will get better with Mike McDonald as the head coach. Offensively, Clint Kubiak comes up from the Saints. And as you know, as someone who follows the Saints, they were gangbusters like their first 4 or 5 games.
Yeah.
Like they were lighting it up. People were like, this Clint Kubiak dude was going to be a head coach. And then, with the injuries and everything, it all fell off. But Darnold is familiar with Kubiak because they were together in San Francisco a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
He ran a similar scheme in Minnesota. So that stretch zone scheme, stuff which really dictated pre-snap for the quarterback read, you match that with Darnold's talent, it's, the opportunities are going to be there. They've got to get better on the offensive line, which a lot of people feel they have.
Yeah.
But losing DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett,
remember,
he's in Tennessee now.
Right.
You've got Cooper Kupp, and then it's kind of, and look, in this league, you got to throw the ball.
Yeah.
Right? They can run the ball. If they can run the ball, they've got the running backs to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But, that secondary, is very good. They just got to get better as a whole. But, I mean, these are one of these teams where when you look at the whole NFC West, I think it's very up for grabs.
Yeah.
And Seattle's one of these teams you're like, I don't know. They've probably got more proving to do than any team in the division because of the moves that they did make.
Yeah. I look at Seattle. I mean, they always have a pretty solid team. I think they have a really good organization. They always seem to find like talented players. They build through the draft. They do a really good job at bringing in veterans that can complement the young players. So this could be one of those teams that could be there in playoff contention. But like you said, the NFC West is a really tough division. My next question is, looking around the landscape of the NFC West, who do you feel has improved their chances of winning the division this season?
Wow. The Arizona Cardinals, for sure. I mean, they doubled their win total to get to 8 last year. And that's with Marvin Harrison trying to figure some things out at wide receiver. I think him and Kyler Murray are going to be better. I think offensively they're going to be better. Their offensive line is still in tatters a little bit, but some of the moves that they made on defense, they clearly said, this is where we're going to stack up. I mean, they went and got Sweat, from the Eagles, got a couple edge rushers. You're going to get Darius Robinson, one of their first-round draft picks, back from an injury last year. So I think they've got the potential to probably make the biggest gain other than the 49ers, just because the 49ers just had such a disastrous season last year. But, I still think the Rams are the team to beat in the division. Mm-hmm. But in terms of overall gain, I mean, again, Arizona's like Seattle, except we look at Arizona like, wow, you talk about a team that I'm never going to buy into until they get to double-digit wins, just because of their history.
Right.
But they bumped up to that line last year by getting to 8. We'll see if they can get across the hump. But I think they've made the type of moves and have the coaching staff to be one of those teams we're really not talking about that could be a headache.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Arizona. I think they have a good combination of young players and some veterans. And also on the defensive side of football, what I like is it's kind of, they don't have that number one pass rush guy. It's like they have like several guys that can get to the quarterback. And that's always a good thing because you don't know who to zero in on. So there's a lot of talent on that team.
You got to get an individual winner, though. You have to get an individual winner, someone who dictates pressure or protections and things like that. So I think that's what they're hoping this year. They found that person. Yeah.
But I really do think they have a very talented football team. But you mentioned the 49ers. I mean, it was tough for them last season. A lot of injuries, and it just kind of derailed their entire season.
Yeah.
Christian McCaffrey not really truly being in the lineup. They signed Brandon Ayuk to a contract extension. He left for the entire season with ACL. And also we're hearing reports about Juwan Jennings, who's not happy about his situation. I mean, you already gave Brock Purdy, gave him a contract extension. What are your thoughts on the 49ers in 2025? Can they get back to being one of the premier teams in the NFC?
I think it's going to be a challenge because, we talk about Brandon Ayuk's going to be gone probably for a big chunk of the season. Let's not forget they traded away Deebo Samuel.
Right.
So can Ricky Pearsall emerge, right? Can Juwan Jennings, I think they'll get that taken care of. He's a really good player. I mean, he's one of those guys, kind of like Nico Collins, who we don't talk about enough, similar stature, similar type of player. And then, Demarcus Robinson, who's a bigger wide receiver who comes over from the Rams. Yeah. Can he fit? Because Debo did a lot of stuff for them. Yeah. But, the injuries caught up with him. Remember, Trent Williams was out a lot last year with injuries. Mm-hmm. So much for them depends on health. They're going to have to rely on George Kittle more in the passing game. If McCaffrey's healthy, that changes everything because he just does so much. But let's not forget defensively. Yes, they get Robert Saleh back. They go out and they draft Mykel Williams, the edge rusher, to go along with Bosa. Yeah. They got to tighten up stuff at D tackle. They've made some moves right there, but they had some issues there last year when Javon Hargrave got hurt. Remember, Dre Greenlaw is now at the Broncos. Talanoa Hufanga is now with the Broncos. Mustafa, the stud safety who emerged last year, he's hurt. I think he's got an ACL. So they're the type of organization you're going to have faith in. Like Brock Purdy's a good quarterback. People can sit there and say what they want about a system. He is a good quarterback, right? He wins ball games for them, not they win despite him.
Right.
So we'll see. I think the 49ers have the potential to get back. I'm not as a lot of people are like, oh, they're the favorite. I'm like, I don't think they're the favorite.
Yeah.
Because if they get an injury or two, that whole thing can unravel again.
Yeah.
But just because of the staff and the organization and the quality of player they have, they very much could be in the mix.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer in Kyle Shanahan. He just throughout his entire time as a coordinator and as a head coach, he's always done a really good job at utilizing what he has, but when you talk about Chris McCaffrey, he is the straw that stirs the drink. Yep. There's a huge difference to when he is in the lineup and when he's not in the lineup. And I also look at those wide receivers. I mean, you talked about Demarcus Robinson, but I mean, I know he has some issues that could possibly cause him to be suspended for the first couple games of the season. Then you have Ricky Pearsall, who has been dealing with an injury, I think, in OTAs. So somebody's going to have to step up in that wide receiver room in order for them to be able to be effective. And you mentioned Brock Purdy, who I think that he is a solid quarterback, but he still needs someone to throw the ball to. Are you concerned about George Kittle? I mean, he's been doing it for a long time. Do you think there's a possibility of a little bit of a drop-off?
No, because, it's productive. Like Kittle had that amazing season last year. Mm-hmm. But it's weird because, they don't rely on him like the way the Raiders rely on Brock Bowers or the way Mahomes relies on him on Travis Kelce in Kansas City. He's more one of the ingredients in the jambalaya, a really good one. He's that andouille sausage that puts it over the top.
Right.
But, I mean, I think because he's such a good blocker and, he's played a lot, but there doesn't seem to be a significant amount of wear and tear. Where he hasn't really broken down that much. I'm not worried about Kittle at all. In fact, I think he's going to have another really good season.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I mean, he is one of the best of his generation.
Yep.
But you talked about, Patrick Mahomes. That leads us to my final question to you and that's about the NFC West. Just looking around the NFC West, you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the runner-up in the Super Bowl. You look at the Denver Broncos. Bo Nix going into his second season. You got Pete Carroll out there in Las Vegas, and you got Jim Harbaugh in Los Angeles. I'll go ahead and I'll start with the Chiefs because the Chiefs, they just paid their guard, Trey Smith. They gave him a 4-year, $94 million deal. This is huge for the Kansas City Chiefs. They've had some issues on that offensive line last season. They drafted Justin Smith out of Ohio State to kind of be the opposite of Trey Smith. But how big is it for Trey Smith to be locked up? I mean, and it's amazing. I mean, this guy was a late-round draft pick, and he ends up getting this type of deal. But what does this mean for the Kansas City Chiefs?
Well, it's huge. I mean, look, they lost Joe Thuney, who was their team MVP last year, right? Remember they traded him to the Bears.
Right.
On the left side. So lock down Trey Smith, one of the best guards, if not the best guard in the NFL, playing next to Creed Humphrey, the best center in the NFL, right? So those are two guys that they hope to lock up, for a long time together. They draft, get the young offensive lineman. That runs everything. We saw last year. when they had injuries in the O-line, what the Eagles were able to do to them, they stomped them in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That was O-line play.
Yeah.
And so I think it's huge that they solidified the O-line. Andy Reid is always going to find a way. But with Patrick Mahomes, with them still trying to figure out their running game, with teams doing things to try to stop, what they're trying to diversify, they've got to have a good O-line. Now, their wide receiver core could be better than it's been in a while. Yeah. They've got some speed. They've got, if Rasheed Rice comes back, you get him back into the mix. And so they could be better. Their defense is still going to be outstanding, even though they lost a couple pieces, Justin Reed. It's just the rest of the division, man. The AFC West is the best division top to bottom entering the 2025 season.
Yeah. Yeah, and looking around the AFC West, what team has improved in your opinion? Just looking around the landscape, what team sticks out to you?
Denver. I think Denver's going to be really good, man. I think they're my team that could really shuffle the deck in the AFC because the defense is already good, right? They got after the quarterback, they had a boatload of sacks. They got a bunch of dudes who bend face masks with hits, and then you add Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. They draft Jahdae Barron, the corner out of Texas, who can play a variety of positions. The secondary is stacked, right? You got Pat Surtain. You got the defensive player of the year on one side. Like they're loaded. Then you add, Dre Greenlaw is such a good player.
Yep.
And the way people are going to feed off of him. So defensively, they are going to be a problem. They were a problem last year. Like I spoke to Vance Joseph, their DC, and he's just like, Steve, I can't believe we got these guys. Like the way they hit, he's like the way when you play, when you coach and you play with guys who love to mash, like everybody else. Well, dang, he racked that dude up. I got to hit the next guy harder. Like it's so contagious. So I think they're going to be good. And Bo Nix, I had no idea when I first saw him last year. I was like, oh, like. He's real. Like he ain't somebody that Sean Payton is creating here.
Yeah.
He's a real dude.
Yeah.
And the fact that I think they got RJ Harvey, the rookie running back out of UCF, who's a game breaker type.
Oh yeah, I love him.
Right. They got J.K. Dobbins, who is the ultimate locker room guy. Right. So the running game should be better. They needed to improve it.
Yeah.
So I think Denver is going to be a very, very dangerous team in this division and the rest of the AFC.
Yeah, look, I'm very familiar with Sean Payton, through his years with the Saints. And I believe that their running game is going to be really strong this season because what he does a really good job is making sure that he keeps his running backs fresh.
Yep. And,
he rotates them. Like they have one heck of a rotation. I can just think about the times when it was Ingram and Kamara throughout all those years, Pierre Thomas and Reggie Bush. Like he's always had like a good combination.
Never forget Deuce McAllister when you talk about the Saints running back, bro.
Oh yeah,
I'm never gonna let that slide. That's my guy.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Hey, I love Deuce. But yeah, he's always like rotated running backs, and RJ Harvey is a talented running back. I want to see this guy play. He's fun to watch. He was at UCF, and I know that he's going to be really good for the Broncos. And J.K. Dobbins, it's never been about his ability. It's just been about his availability. Yep. So hopefully he can get that under control. Win that battle of attrition, and he can be out there. And I know that he can be an integral part of that offense. What about the Raiders? The Raiders look a little different. You get Ashton Genty as your first round pick. You bring in Geno Smith. You got some defensive guys, Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby. And you also have Pete Carroll, who is a really good football coach. But there's some question marks about the wide receivers, who is going to be that number one guy. But what do you think about the Raiders?
I think they have a chance to be pretty damn good. That's why I said this whole division, top to bottom, is to me entering the season the best in the NFL. Pete Carroll will change as much as he can change the culture. The Raiders are a very unique building where, again, they hang on to their history a lot in a different way than like the Steelers or the Packers do. They really this is how we run our building. A lot of time, the way the whole building operates permeates to how the football operations operate. And I think Pete will be able to insulate the football team in ways where they can really get it going to where what he does kind of blossoms out to the rest of the building, holds people to a certain standard in a positive way.
Yeah.
Right. Pete is a super positive guy. They've had a lot of negative energy in that building.
Yeah.
So, you get Geno Smith in there, right? He's got his quarterback.
Yeah.
Right. You talked about Ashton Genty. They got Raheem Mostert, another good player with a great locker room guy. Mm-hmm. Offensive line is pretty good. I mean, that's not a bad OL. You got Brock Bowers. Like you said, the receiving core is like, they drafted Besh out of TCU.
Yeah.
We've got a couple other guys.
Like Kobe Myers, yeah.
Yeah, Kobe Myers is a good player, right? Mm-hmm. But that's where it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? But weren't we always saying that about the Seahawks teams? Like, nobody knew who Doug Baldwin was for a couple of years.
Yeah.
No one knew who Jermaine Kearse was for a couple of years. And these guys are like winning ball games over and over for years. Like, Doug Baldwin, to me, is one of the most overlooked players for a whole era of football, how good he was. So we'll see, because Chip Kelly's the OC there, and he has really evolved as a play schemer and play caller.
Yep.
Then defensively, I think that's where they're Band-Aiding it a little bit. They got a Landon Roberts at inside linebacker, and I think they signed why am I blanking from the Buccaneers? I forget who they have, but they've got
Pratt. They got Jermaine Pratt as well, right?
Oh, yeah, Jermaine Pratt, right? Two tackling machines. These are guys who are high register tackle guys. They just got to make sure those tackles aren't followed by first downs, right? They've got to really, Wilkins, he's coming off that knee. Pete Carroll was here about his availability early in the season. Mm-hmm. But you got Max Crosby, and what no one's talking about is Malcolm Kuntz, who can come back from an injury. 2 years ago, man, Kuntz and Crosby were a freaking tandem, right? So if Kuntz can come back and play like he did 2 years ago off that injury, they're good on the edges. Yeah. The secondary, that's Pete's stronghold. That's where he develops guys. So we'll see how that turns out. But I think the Raiders are going to be better, and it will be reflective in the record.
Yeah. What makes me excited about the Raiders, Steve, is, I'm a football historian, and I just think about like some of those classic Raiders teams when, you had Howie Long and Lyle Alzado, mean and nasty. And they were able to be themselves. That's one thing that Pete Carroll allows his players to do. He preaches discipline, on a football field, but he also allows the guys to kind of be unapologetically themselves. And I just think that could be a recipe to see maybe some of that old type of Raider football, kind of rear its head once again. I just think
I love you saying that. I love you saying that, man.
Yeah.
I don't think people have really mentioned that. That is a great point by you, because you look at those Seahawks and you let Richard Sherman be himself. You let Russ be himself.
Mm-hmm.
He let Doug and Marshawn and Cliff Averill and Cam Chancellor. He let those guys be themselves because they were accountable to one another. Like I used to spend a lot of time in that locker room. And those dudes, if a dude was getting a little too frosty, hey, calm it down right now. Bobby Wagner, Cam Chancellor, those guys would lock up that locker room like, hey, we got a good thing going here. And I think it's because Pete knows how to push the right buttons to let guys be themselves, but also push the buttons to guys who say, okay, don't let him be himself too much if it's destructive to the team. Yeah. But that is such a good point that you made, because the Raiders, like even here at Ashton Genty, he been talking a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? Geno been talking a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, you got to win.
Oh, yeah.
But that's a great, great point by you, and that could really mean a lot if we're talking about changing the culture in Las Vegas.
Yeah, because, I mean, it definitely needs to change. All it takes is a coach that is passionate, that guys buy into what he's actually doing. And Pete Carroll, he has the resume to come with it, not just in the NFL, but on a collegiate level as well. I mean, his reputation has always been allowing players to be themselves, but also is a really good football coach. I mean, I can't believe like he's in his 70s. I mean, every time you see him, like he has the energy of a 25-year-old. So
and a great developer of talent. Pete and I have talked about this many times, because on those great Seahawks, those LOB defenses, one first rounder. That was Earl Thomas.
Right. That's
And
great.
everyone else, Brandon Mebane, all those great players, they were not first round. It was only early time. So Pete can develop guys as well.
Yeah. I mean, a really good football coach. So hopefully
Yep.
the Raiders can actually be a better football team than we've seen in years past. But Steve, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by the State of the NFL. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And just let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Yeah, you can watch me on NFL Network. Several days a week on the Insiders. On weekends, I'll be on Game Day Preview and Game Day Morning, Game Day Kickoff. I'll be on all those. And there's another big announcement coming that I can't say yet regarding some college football. Wow. But otherwise, on all my social media handles, at Wyche89, at Wyche89.
Yeah, but make sure that you follow him on social media platforms and check him out on the NFL Network, covering some of your favorite teams and talking about news around the NFL. Steve, thank you so much for your time. Look forward to hearing what you have to say about the 2025 season as we get into it.
Let's do it again, brother. Appreciate you.
All right. Appreciate you. Thank you.